Time now for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us. The headlines. The UN issues a warning over the humanitarian situation in parts of northern Nigeria recently freed from Boko Haram militants. It says thousands of children are at risk of starvation. Our reporter gains rare access to the iconic Malian city of Timbuktu as it celebrates the end of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. And NGOs express their concerns as authorities in Senegal begin an operation to clear thousands of street children from the Dakar region. We start with the United Nations sounding the alarm bell over what it says is a potentially catastrophic humanitarian situation in Nigeria's Borno state. It says some 50,000 children under the age of 5 could starve to death in the region, which borders Lake Chad. This is the military campaign against jihadist group Boko Haram continues, allowing aid agencies into places once occupied by the Islamists.
This is Halima. She's just 1, but weighs not much more than a newborn. Her mother, Yagana, brought her to Maiduguri from their home near Mafa, 50 kilometers away, to flee possible Boko Haram attacks. But she says there was another threat in her village: not enough food. Halima's been treated at this UNICEF-run nutrition clinic. It's helped her put on some weight, but she's still severely malnourished, and she's not the only one.
Every day we are getting about 7 or sometimes even 10, sometimes even more than 10. We are getting them. But for now, children that with severe acute malnutrition that we admitted them, we have 363.
Northeast Nigeria has been torn apart by Boko Haram in the last 7 years. At least 20,000 people have been killed and more than 2.6 million made homeless. The military's flushing out Boko Haram from captured territory. Aid agencies are now warning of the threat of malnutrition and appealing for help.
We are not looking to know who is accountable or who is not, but to try as much as possible to make sure that any child that is malnourished is treated. NGOs and the government are doing so much, but it's not enough. There is still room for improvement, and the situation is evolving fast.
There's nearly 16,000 people at the Muna informal settlement on the outskirts of Maiduguri. Sanitation's poor, medicine and food are in short supply. Food supplements are now being given to most of the children to prevent the situation worsening.
They have nothing in hand for them to eat. They left everything behind, and then they just brought their life. So if in shortest period of time, if the supply of food is not been done, there will be a lot of complications, I fear.
With homes destroyed and farmlands devastated, more people arrive in places like Muna every day. They've nowhere else to go.
Elsewhere, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been continuing his four-nation African tour in Kenya. This as he looks to build business ties and secure the support of African countries at the United Nations in return for security cooperation. On Tuesday, he met Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta to discuss counter-terrorism, energy and agriculture, the pair also highlighting their common fight against Islamic extremism. Let's get some more African news in brief now. And Somali refugees returning from Kenya have been arriving at a new camp about 12 kilometres south of the capital, Mogadishu. Many of them speaking at their frustration at being forced back to a nation still suffering violence and instability. It comes after Kenya began clearing its giant Dadaab refugee camp near the border with Somalia. It's a bid to halve the size of that camp. Nairobi says the site's being used as a recruitment base by al-Shabaab extremists. In South Africa, President Jacob Zuma has been out campaigning outside the capital, Pretoria, then in a township where 5 people were killed during protests recently. The violence was triggered when Zuma's ruling ANC overruled local party branches by choosing former Cabinet Minister Thoko Diziza as its candidate for mayor. The country, which has seen mounting anger over economic hardship, goes to the polls on August the 3rd in elections that are seen as a referendum on Zuma's rule. Sierra Leone's tourism and fishing industries have taken a hit, with beaches in and around the capital Freetown swamped by foul-smelling seaweed. The country's home to some of the world's most idyllic seaside spots, but right now people are donning face masks to deal with the stench. Biologists say unusual weather patterns have carried the seaweed all the way from the Sargasso Sea in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Now, DRC opposition leader Moise Katumbi says he rejects an arrest warrant against him and will return to his country to run for president. The multimillionaire is currently in Paris and said he has recovered after what he claims was a bid by Congolese authorities to poison him. He's accused of hiring mercenaries in a plot against the state and faces a 3-year jail sentence for selling a building he didn't own. His supporters, however, say that all of that is politically motivated and designed to ensure that Congolese President Joseph Kabila can avoid an election that's scheduled for November.
I'm going back to Congo. I've got a fight, a peaceful fight for our country to have the first peaceful transition. I'm going back. I'm not scared about anything. I didn't do anything wrong. Our struggle is not to fight with guns. Our struggle is a peaceful struggle to have a new government on 19 December 2016.
To Mali next, where our reporter Francois Riouet has been able to gain rare access to Timbuktu as the country marks the end of Ramadan. He sent this report from the iconic northern city, which lies in a region that still sees sporadic jihadist attacks despite France's military intervention in 2013.
Timbuktu's main mosque was not big enough, so thousands of believers gathered outside the religious building to celebrate the end of Ramadan. Timbuktu was considered the center of Islamic learning from the 13th to the 17th centuries. In 2012, it was occupied by jihadist groups who were forced out by French forces in January 2013.
It was a relief. There had been a crisis in Timbuktu. We feel God was testing us. Today we are very happy. We are proud to be able to gather here to pray, to show that solidarity exists in Islam among Muslims, so that reconciliation can happen.
3.5 years after the departure of the jihadists, residents of the historical city still fear attacks. Security forces and United Nations peacekeepers are on high alert.
We are worried by the presence of jihadist groups. It's hard to know who is who. That's why we're cautious. Security has been stepped up. We don't want any surprises.
The jihadists were chased out of Timbuktu more than 3 years ago, but they are still able to carry out sporadic attacks in the region, including several this week. They target civilians and Malian and UN soldiers. Mali is now the deadliest country in the world for UN peacekeepers.
Senegal, finally, where authorities have begun an operation to clear up to 30,000 street children from the Dakar region. The government says they'll be relocated to special welcome centres, but that hasn't stopped NGOs expressing concern. This from our correspondent, Sarah Sacco.
These children are being removed from the streets of the capital by force. Broadcast on national television, the images shocked viewers across the country. Other media are forbidden to film the authorities in action, but the procedure is ongoing. On Monday, children and their mothers removed from the street were bused to this centre. Around 150 children have already been received.
We settled them in first before asking them why they are in the street. After our investigation, we proceed with a so-called family mediation or family returns, because the centre is a place of transit only.
All children found on the street will be removed, accompanied or not. The main targets are talibé, students from Quranic schools sent out to beg by their teachers. Strongly criticised for their leniency towards those who exploit children, the authorities are putting their foot down.
When we pick up the children and the parents come, we educate them on the need to better support children and not leave them on the streets. If there's a recurring case, we'll refer to the law, and the law stipulates a fine from 700 to 3,000 euros and a jail sentence of 2 to 5 years.
Benefits for families have also been announced. Ndé, who has 11 children, says she has no alternative to begging.
Before I came here on the bus, I asked them to explain what I can do. I asked if I could continue to beg to feed my children, at least until the rains come. Then I'll harvest my crop of millet.
Child welfare advocates have already expressed they fear the hype around the announcement will turn into a baseless promise. The authorities have assured the operation will continue.
That's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us. Mark Owen will be with you very shortly for the rest of Life in Paris.